Are you ready for this? A live edge desk with faux metal legs and an epoxy river, drawer front. I hope you guys are doing incredible today. This is a live edge desk that I started for my daughter about 4 or 5 months ago. And truth be told, I'm just now getting around to finishing the video, but the desk has probably been done for about 2 months. The slab was way too narrow to use for much else, so what you see me doing here is breaking it down into 2 smaller pieces, and then I came back with my domino to join the 2 halves together to make a wider slab. Now in this case I did use the dominoes mainly for alignment, just because I figured it'd be pretty precarious to clamp up this live edge slab. And after about 24 hours in clamps, I took the slab out and it was actually flatter than I thought it was going to be. So with the desktop done, I put that aside and I started milling up my pieces for the trapezoid legs. Now let me tell you, these were not your dad's trapezoid legs. They had a 15-degree angle towards the middle, but also a 15-degree splay towards the outside. And this is a little bit complicated to cut because I had to cut a compound miter with the blade tilted at 15 degrees and my miter gauge tilted at 15 degrees. Hopefully this animation helps explain it, but the legs were splayed towards the middle at 15 degrees, and then 15 degrees facing out from each side of the table to give it that splay. Now, I did use fur for the legs with the intention of doing this faux finish, and in retrospect, I wish I wouldn't have used such a soft wood. I felt like I would look at the wood the wrong way and it would get some sort of a dent in it. I would actually suggest trying to get an extra set of hands to help you with the glue up if you're going to make legs like this, just because the angles it was a little tricky. I also added a pretty heavy round over and then came back and reinforced the whole assembly with screws and plugs just to make this as strong as possible. This is my daughter's desk for school, so I had to make this a little bit more functional. So the next step was to build a drawer box to go in the middle of this desk. Now when I build drawers, I prefer the method of inserting a dado in the bottom so you can actually slide the bottom panel into the drawer box. And nothing fancy here, pocket screws for me makes the simplest drawers. And here you can see me just sliding that drawer bottom into the dado on the drawer box. I can't say enough how much I appreciate you watching this video and just checking out the work that I'm doing. It's been super fun just doing some of these tutorials on some of the projects that I build. And if you're so inclined, I'd love to see you hit that subscribe button. That just lets YouTube know that this is a channel worth showing to people like you that are watching the similar kind of content. And for me, this is the best way to help me grow my channel so I can do more projects like this. Thanks, guys. Now, because I could flip the desk upside down, it was super easy to install the slides on the drawers into the drawer box. Wait, is this a drawer box or is this a drawer frame? I don't know. So next step was making the drawer face, and I wanted to try something a little bit different here. So one of the scrap pieces that I had from the live edge I cut off, I resawed down the middle. With my 2 pieces cut, I started cleaning them up. I personally think an angle grinder with a 40 grit flap disc is the quickest way to clean up any live edge. And believe it or not, yes, I'm Canadian and I have never made any sort of river table in all my woodworking career. So I thought for the drawer front, might as well throw some epoxy around. So you'll notice that the epoxy that I'm using has a bit of a yellow tinge to it. This stuff is probably a year or 2 old, and it didn't really show any of that coloring after I had mixed it and of course incorporated the pigment into it. I took the time in sealing up the form as best as possible with tuck tape, and I had absolutely zero leakage through my form. Hey Black Forest, eat your heart out. With the leftover epoxy I had, I did some of the touch-ups on the desktop, and then I just had to wait for everything to dry.
That's very comforting, but I'm afraid you'll just have to wait.
I hate waiting.
I think because I spent the extra time on the mold, demolding the drawer front went super smooth and I had no major issues throughout this process. One of the products that I have fallen in love with over the past few years is CA glue. It is so good for doing jobs like attaching drawer fronts, making table saw sleds, and Starbond's a partner of mine, so if this is a product that you haven't tried yet, I definitely suggest it. I've included a discount coupon below, so if you want to check out what they have to offer, follow those links. And that actually is something that really helps my channel out as well. Thanks. I really want to experiment on the finish for these legs, so I decided to do a faux metal finish. Step one in my faux metal finish was to spray paint the legs silver. This is where your inner Bob Ross can really come out. The faux finish is really made possible by putting an ebony stain and brushing it on very lightly in a grain direction. So the same direction that metal grain would work. And what I would do is I would brush this on very, very, very lightly, and I would move as much of the material around as I could in the same direction. That way it just kind of flowed from one end to the other. And I'm really happy with the way this actually ended up looking. I did several coats over about a day of the ebony stain just to kind of build up some layers and depth, and then I brushed everything down with a nice clear coat. You probably have seen these leveling feet before that come with these garbage plastic inserts. The leveling feet that I typically buy have a 1/4-20 thread pattern, so I usually just bring my own metal thread inserts to the party. And instead of mixing up a 2-part epoxy to glue in the threaded inserts, I usually just use CA glue just on the sides of the threads just to lock them in place. With all my major components ready, I started my final sand as well as applying finish. Now for finish, I just went with my go-to, which has become Maker Brand Simple Finish. It's a hard wax finish, super easy to apply, and I love the way it looks. Now to be super transparent, I don't love the way the drawer looks on this design, but this needed to be something that was more about function over form. Says the guy who made a river table style drawer front. Regardless of all that, this is a cool piece that my daughter now gets to have for the rest of her life. Guys, thanks again for following along on this build, and I just super appreciate the feedback I get from these videos and just all the positive comments that come out of the work that I'm doing. Hey, let me know in the comments if you try this full metal finish. I'd love to know if this is something that you found useful that you would use yourself. And I should point out that this desk was actually part of a series that I'm doing on a bit of a room renovation for my daughter. The next video coming out is for these box shelves. This is a cool design and can't wait to show you that video as well. Anyways, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for tuning in. I've queued up a couple other projects here that you might want to check out, and I'll also put a link in the description for the shelf build once that's done. Thanks. Bye guys.